Oh. There we go. I didn't realise that was... Anyway. Ahoy hoy! I am Planarwalk. But I think most people here already knew that. I wouldn't be surprised anyway if they... if you did. So... what to talk about today? There's been a lot of... I should probably reposition myself a lot better as well. Yeah, also, I realised just as I hit start stream on my end that my mic was off. And so I was thinking, oh, that's not a good... Anyway, so politics have been happening. And it has been weird. Also, I'm going to move my mic a little bit closer to me because, you know, I feel like sometimes you might not hear it if it's all the way over there. It's always great when I jump scare people because they're not paying attention to the fact that it's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's also... depends on what time zone you're in, I guess. Yeah, but politics. So there's the politics that everyone is following, right? And that's the politics over in the US. And then there is politics that some people are following over in the UK. And then there's politics that, for some reason, a lot of people decided to suddenly care about in France. The weirdest one is the US politics, but then there are some weird things that are happening with French politics. And it's not so much the French politics themselves, it's more the fact that suddenly people care about French politics. You know, it's... for some reason, people have decided, oh, well, if the French politics doesn't do the thing that I want, that means that France is dead or something. Which is a weird way of putting it. Or a weird way of looking at another country's politics. Anyway, let's start with the one that people seem to probably care about the most because they live in the US, and that is the US politics. So, when it comes to the US politics, what are you doing? Why is everybody who is running for president... I think literally everybody who is running for president is over the age of 70. There is... there's... like, I had a look, and you've got Donald Trump is over the age of 70, Joe Biden is over the age of 70, Jill Stein is over the age of 70, RFK... I think RFK is Jr. is over the age of 70. Cornel West is over the age of 70. Why is everybody over the age of 70? Like, I think that if you have a age limit on the lower age that someone could be when running for president, then there should be an age cap on the other end. You know, it's like it just the other end should have a age cap because, how do I put it? just because you're older doesn't mean that you're going to be... that doesn't mean that you're going to be better. So either abolish the minimum age or institute an upper age. Oh, the sound is clipping badly. I think I might... Yeah, I had the gain turned up maybe a little bit too much. There we go. Hopefully that's better. But yeah. Yeah, like just past 70 would probably be a good place to put it. Like 65, I think, is also maybe like Ben Shapiro. I'm hearing very low sounds. Hopefully that doesn't continue. Ben Shapiro had not a bad idea. How about making the retirement age the same as the age that the president, the maximum age for the presidency? I don't usually agree with Ben Shapiro, but it's like on that one instance, maybe that's a good idea. Dave McKeegan said, remove the low age and let's see how a 4-year-old does in office. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Like, considering we've got people that it doesn't seem like, people who it doesn't really seem like are that great running, you know, considering Joe Biden is in office. And here's the thing about Joe Biden. I do not believe that Joe Biden is actually making major decisions and stuff. To some extent, he is, because, you know, he's the president. But I think to a large extent, he's got a team that's helping him decide the policies that, you know, whatever that it is the president does, like I don't know how it works over in... Like, I know that there's executive decisions, but I don't know how many executive decisions Joe Biden is making. But yeah, I think it's largely the team that he has that is helping him with that. And so it's like, I'm not too worried if Joe Biden were to get in again, because it's like, his team probably isn't that bad. You know? However, it's just the idea that someone isn't all there who is able to make big decisions. I mean, that's the problem that a lot of people had with Trump, right? Because Trump, well, I mean, he's more all there than Joe Biden, but he didn't really seem to be in the best... Like, we know that Trump has an ego, a big ego problem, so someone pisses him off, then he might press the nukes. Now, to be fair, he didn't do that, which is good, but it is one of those things where... bit of an... Hopefully that noise that I keep hearing doesn't continue throughout the stream. Yeah. I do think that with Trump, he would have more direct say over the presidency than Biden, if he were to get in. Which, you know, given the fact that he has a huge ego, doesn't really give me much confidence in a Trump presidency over a Biden presidency. Especially given the fact that, you know, he doesn't seem like some of his policies aren't that great, especially when relating to trans people. If Biden wins but is later declared incompetent, I'm okay with Harris. Yeah, I think, like, I don't mind Harris. I think that she probably wouldn't do well in a against Trump, like, head to head. Maybe we'd just have to see. I mean, I think we'd have the same problem with Harris that we had with Hillary Clinton. People seem to really not like Harris, but like at this point, she seems like she might be better than Joe Biden. So yeah, essentially we're down to voting for whoever will do the least damage, not who's... Yeah, exactly. Like, when it comes to Donald Trump, well, when it comes to Joe Biden, should I say, he is, pretty... In terms of being all there, he's not really all there. Like, you could... I don't think it's too unfair to say that he might be incompetent. At least he's incompetent when it comes to, projecting himself as a leader. I don't think that's an unfair statement. But yeah, like, we can say that Joe Biden is incompetent. Trump is a little more competent than Biden. However, I think he's a bit more malicious than Biden. And it's like, okay, would you prefer maliciousness, but slightly competent, or just incompetence? And for me, I think I'd rather choose someone who, if they do bad things, it's not going to be coming from a place where they're trying to do bad things. You know? Like, if I'm... I think a good analogy is, would you rather hire... And, okay, I feel like that... What is make... I feel like the sound is going to be an issue and it's going to keep on distracting me. But, like, would you rather hire a thief? Or would you rather hire, someone who dropped out of high school? Well, would I'd rather hire the person who dropped out, you know? Sure, the thief may be more competent and be able to do a better job, but I don't trust the thief, you know? Unless, like, we're talking about a job that involves stealing, in which case, okay, maybe the thief might be a good idea, but, like, what job involves stealing? I don't think... I mean, maybe Nixon will hire the thief, who knows? But he's... Yeah, a thief that will steal from you. Exactly, Ryan. But yeah, I think that's a big issue that we've got here, is that you don't really have much of a choice. And the whole thing with... People are saying, oh, the Biden performance isn't going to impact anyone. Like, I don't think that the Biden performance is going to convince anyone who would vote for Trump. I'm having my own brain farts. I'm catching Joe Biden. But yeah, I don't think that anyone who saw the debate is going to vote for Trump over Biden. However, I do think that a lot of people who saw that debate will not vote for Biden. And that's the big issue, is that Biden needs people to vote for him to win. I think there will still be a lot of people that will vote for Biden, of course, but they're doing it because there's no other good alternative. Like, I'm not voting for Biden. I can't vote. Well, not in US elections, so that's my excuse. I mean, maybe there is a way. I don't know. I don't know how citizenship works, but I'm not going through that. And I'm certainly sure that I can't get citizenship within 4 months. If Biden did droop out, then Harris would need a strongly popular running mate if she should run, I think. Here's what we need. Here's my hot take. We should have Biden drop out and then replace him with someone older. That would be a good idea. You see, here's how Bernie can still win, guys. And actually, like, that wouldn't be such a bad idea. Like, I know that Bernie and Joe have seemed to be getting along well, but, it's a shit show. I don't think that Joe Biden should stay in the race. I'm not sure that the US is ready for a 2-woman ticket. I'm not sure what you... Oh, like Harris and Elizabeth Warren. Is that what you're suggesting? Oh, yeah. Send for Emperor Palpatine. But yeah, like, here is another possibility, right? All we have to do is just, because there's definitely a portion of the population that will vote for whoever they think will result in the funniest outcome, right? So the funniest outcome is Joe Biden winning, right? Like, because Trump used to be funny. However, he has gone through significant mental decline, and he doesn't have the steam that he used to. Part of it is probably the fact that he's facing multiple lawsuits, but yeah, I think so. The UK should have voted Dalek. I don't know, but yeah, like when it comes to where was I? Train of thought. I said like that. Everybody has been impacted by the Joe Biden versus Trump debate. Most people actually I think people just refer it to the Biden debate because of how badly he did. But yeah, Joe Biden is the funniest, is the funnier option because of the simple fact is he's just gonna like, we've already seen this where he'll be just talking about something and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, out of nowhere he'll be like, just talk about something completely different. I can just imagine him, talking about, so I probably can't do a good Joe Biden impression, so I'm probably not going to try, but like, so he just talked about, I'm already doing good. Yeah, so we just passed the infrastructure bill, and what is frotting? Something like that. Trump was funny, like, mocking a disabled journalist. No, I'm talking about, like, some of the speeches were, like, were just, like, funny. And not so much in terms of... just say Jackie, yeah. And not in terms of, necessarily... I see so many comments that are distracting me. In terms of, yeah, not necessarily in terms of, like, what he's saying to be funny, right? But, like, the way that he delivers things, like, or the way that he just, like, the whole injecting bleach thing was funny, right? Because it was so silly, so out there. The KidVicious thing, that was funny, And it's one of those things where he doesn't have that energy to be able to bring that to the presidency, I don't think. Well, not again, at least. And, like, one of the things that I still remember Trump for, like, one of the things that I still find funny is the Obama, Obama, and then there's also the soda. It's one of those things where I don't think that Trump has that energy anymore to be funny, whereas Joe Biden is just going to be funny. Of course, Joe Biden's going to be funny on accident, but, like, a lot of the times Trump was funny on accident. Maybe as Americans it wasn't funny to us because it was hurting us. Yeah, I think that is it is one of those things where, in hindsight, I think some of the things were funny. Like, there's a few things that I'm, like, trying to remember, but it's like my mind has blocked out basically 2022 and before. Except for, like, a few of the, really big memes. But, you know, I think that when it comes to the whole thing with Biden and Trump, Biden is the better option. Trump is not a good option. Like, Trump, I think, is trying to do a bit of damage control at the moment by distancing himself from Project... bombing, saying that we should bomb hurricanes. That was funny, you know? Like, just the ridiculous things. Now, it's... like, you can probably bring up a lot of things. It's one of those things which it doesn't come to mind because, you know, it's been a few years. And we remember the horrible stuff that Trump did. And, like, Trump will continue to do horrible stuff. Like, how many more Supreme Court judges can he appoint in his time when it comes to his time in office? That's done irreparable harm to the US. Planner Walk odds that Trump's running mate will be at least better than him. I don't think so. I don't think we're going to get TP again. Because they had a bit of a falling out at the last election. But yeah, I think that... Yeah, I think that a lot of what Trump did was funny has been blocked out from the fact that a lot of the stuff that he did wasn't that great. You know, as I said, like the whole Supreme Court stuff, trying to build a wall which isn't going to really do anything. And it's one of those things where if he gets back in, it's going to be worse, and I don't think people realize that. You know, he is going to get more... he could potentially get more Supreme Court justice picks, and that's not a good thing. You know, like, the Supreme Court is meant to be impartial, from what I know, but that doesn't mean that it necessarily is. You know, when you've got a constitution like the US Constitution, it's got room for interpretation, and that's the job of the Supreme Court, as far as I know, to interpret the Constitution, and it doesn't always get interpreted in the same way, hence why they overturned Roe v. Wade. And one's own biases can be reflected in their decisions. You know, you could say, oh, well, this constitutional amendment does this. But then this other constitutional amendment, that same constitutional amendment doesn't do this, even though these two situations should theoretically be the same. Someone could have a bias. You know, I think the big thing is like the Second Amendment, right? A lot of people have different interpretations of what that should mean. You know, some people think that it should mean that you're allowed to own any gun whatsoever. You're allowed to own a tank. Some people think that it should mean, but obviously there's going to have to be restrictions on that. I don't think that... I think that a lot of the time you will have Supreme Court justices who will have their own opinions leak into their interpretations of the Constitution. And I'm not a big fan of having that sway more in the conservative, in terms of conservatives. You know, I don't want that to happen. That's why I think people should vote Biden. And I hope I make that clear. Like, people should vote Biden, and I worry what's going to happen. Also, the whole Project 2025 thing is a big worry. Now, Trump has tried to distance himself from it, but there is a question of, is Trump distancing himself from it so that people don't worry as much about a Trump second term? or is he legitimately, or does he legitimately have disagreements with Project 2025? Who's to say? It's not like people don't distance themselves from certain things to appeal more to certain voter bases, because there are some people which, if Project 2025 wasn't a thing, they would be like not voting for Biden at all. So I wonder if Trump is just saying, oh yeah, I'm not going to implement Project 2025, so that those people feel more comfortable not voting. And then he might just implement it anyway. It's hard to say with Trump because I don't trust him. He lies all the time. And Project 2025, yeah, that's not good. I don't like the idea of the US becoming a dictatorship. I mean, it already seems to be on its way there with the Supreme Court ruling. It's not good stuff. And to top it off, like, the system over in America is not a good system. I am worried for the US. I am very worried for the US. I hope that nothing goes wrong. I hope that everyone's concerns are overblown. I really hope that. But sometimes concerns are valid, and I think that the concerns that a lot of people have are definitely very valid. And that's the concerns, whether it comes to Joe Biden's age, whether it comes to, what would Trump do if he has the presidency, the fact that a Trump presidency could mean more Supreme Court justices that he gets to pick, and those Supreme Court justices would, there's no limit there. Roe v. Wade was overturned during Biden's presidency. Some things that a presidency does has long-lasting effects into presidencies beyond their own. And I think that a lot of people don't see that. And that's a problem. Not dealing with COVID right meant that it did impact Biden's presidency. There was a lot of inflation, and there was more than one impact, and people attribute that to Biden. So yeah, it was. There is a lot of problems with the Trump presidency, but and I'm not that concerned about a Biden presidency because, as I said, his team will probably be doing a lot of things, which kind of worries me about the idea of a Trump presidency, because let's say that Trump is correct, he doesn't like Project 2025. What about his team? Will his team try to get him to implement it, at least in some ways? That's also a concern to be worried about, even if you believe Trump. And when it comes to Trump, I don't believe him. He lies all the time. In that debate, he lied. But not a lot of people talk about that because people focus on what Biden's able to do. It's something that the optics of a lot of these things matter more than what actually is getting done. Optics count, and a lot of people vote on vibes, which brings us to the UK election, because the UK recently did an election, and oh boy, a lot of people are going, finally, we've gotten rid of the Conservatives. Who have we replaced them with? Oh no, we've replaced them with Conservatives, because it turns out that the Labour Party has shifted to the right. A lot of their policies are very similar to conservative policies, just maybe a little more left-wing, as in, because from what I've heard, they're still doing the austerity stuff, just maybe not nearly as hard, maybe with a few better views on climate change, which, I mean, if we're doing better things about climate change, I'm all for that, but at the same time, we need to do a lot more. I don't want austerity politics to continue, and my problem with what's happening is people are going to view the Labour Party as left-wing, as the whatchamacallit, there's a word, the pinnacle of left-wing politics, right? Problem is things are just going to continue to get worse in the UK. And when things get worse, I've noticed that people tend to think about how things are and compare it to how things were. So, and not how things would normally progress. So, if things are getting worse, then let's say things have gotten worse over the past 3 years. I can take how I experience things now and compare it to 3 years ago. If a different party was in power 3 years ago, well then obviously that party, that party might not have been too bad because things weren't as bad as they are now. Problem is that the same trajectory might have happened under that party. You can't really know. And I feel like that's a lot of the vibes that people get when a certain party's in power. It's like, oh well, things were better 3 or 4 years ago, so obviously that party that was in power then can't have been that bad, especially if they've been in power for 10 years, even though under their rule the country's just gotten significantly worse since then. We don't tend to think about the fact that things have consistently got worse under them. We think about, oh, well, they were in power and things weren't as bad when they're in power. And that's the thing that Labour would need to avoid. And I don't see that happening with Keir Starmer. And there's also the problem that Keir Starmer has with trans issues. That is a concern that I've heard people have. Once upon a time in the US, Republicans were the progressives and Democrats were the Conservative Party. Change happens. Yeah, and I don't see the Tories getting progressive. It would be nice if it happened. It would be really nice if it happened, but I worry that people are going to point to Labour as the pinnacle of left-wing stuff, and when things inevitably don't get any better under them, people will point to them and say, well, obviously left-wing stuff doesn't work, even though they're not as left-wing as a lot of people are proposing. So yeah, I think that... And also, there's the problem with the UK's system as well. There was certainly, the Labour won a landslide, but they didn't get as many votes as they got in previous years. And that is always a concern for me. Like in New Zealand, we don't have that because we have proportional representation. There are times when the parliament isn't proportionally represented, like at the moment, but that's because there are certain areas or groups of people that have decided, hey, we would like this politician to represent us, even though they don't have enough votes to get in. And that is something which, it's kind of combining the whole idea of having seats to represent an individual area, but also having proportional representation so that no party is theoretically overrepresented in Parliament. Although, of course, it kept reform out of any serious power, yeah. Sometimes things like that are a double-edged sword, I'll admit, But I think a lot of people also get... I feel like one of the big issues is that when you have these things that aren't proportional, you do run the risk of not alienating, but... There's a term that I had... It's basically where voters become disillusioned with the idea of voting because they don't feel like, if they're in an area that a seat is going to go to a particular person, they don't feel disenfranchised. Yes. If someone is in a particular seat and that seat is going to go to someone because of the voter base in that electorate, then they'll just not vote because they don't see the point in voting. Whereas in New Zealand, if I vote, it's going to matter. First past the post disenfranchises almost everyone. Yeah, I agree. I much prefer the New Zealand system of MMP. It's I realise that we're very lucky to have that system because a lot of people... there are people that don't like MMP here. The idea about MMP is... One of the big things with MMP is you always get coalition governments. And, again, that is a double-edged sword. In some instances, if you've got a Labour that is left... that is centre, right? And there is a large portion of the country that wants a government which is a bit more left-leaning, then Labour can form a coalition with that left-leaning party, and those two can work together to do more left-wing stuff than what a lot of people would otherwise get. However, when it comes to what we've got, there are small parties that get a disproportionate amount of power. It's not a great system when there is the potential for a single party to win every single seat by a vote and end up with no opposition. Yeah, that is a problem. That is why I like our system, even with its flaws. You can end up with a small party that only a few people vote for that have a bit too much power because the party that they've ended up in a coalition with has no balls. Which is basically what we've got here. You've got New Zealand First and the ACT Party, who seem to have a lot of power. Too much power, in fact. And the national government just lets them get away with stuff. Anyway, I'm going to have a drink, and then we're going to talk about France, because France is the weird stuff. Also, Dave from Colorado says the United States is a constitutional republic, not a democracy, period. We are not a majority rule. We are a place where every voice, every vote does count. Huh? Not sure. I don't like the US's system. US system is not good because it disenfranchises a lot of people. Anyway. So, the French politics were... I will admit, I'm not entirely up to date on how French politics works. But, what I do know is that some people, the leftists over there, decided to work with, I think it was liberals or maybe centrists, to stop the far right from getting into power. Because it seemed like the far right was doing quite well. So they decided, okay, let's have candidates let's have candidates from each of our camps drop out so that the candidates that are viable have more of a chance. Now, again, you get the same problem where I think this is pretty much the same problem where you have, seats rather than proportional representation. However, if you've got a system like that, you can game the system. The problem that people are running in, or the problem that people have, is they're going, oh well, that's cheating. No, it isn't. They've just gone, okay, well, if we have politicians or candidates running in these seats that have similar policies, people's votes will be split between these two candidates. Let's not do that, which I think is a good idea. Sometimes you've got that whole thing where I think in the US this happened in the last not this presidential primary for the Democrats, but the one before that, where a lot of votes were split between candidates who, because it's like, oh well, we've got Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders who have kind of similar platforms. So a lot of votes got split between them. And I think that is an issue with a lot of people where if there are people or a lot of systems where if there are people that are similar enough, it's like, okay, well, might as well vote for this one, and because this one seems better, and another person won't consider the fact that a lot of people might be voting for this one, they'll go vote for the one that they think is better. You end up splitting the vote. Far right is still nearly half the seats in parliaments. No, I don't think so. Like, last I checked, it was like closer to a third. The Liberals and leftists, I think, had... If I search French election results, there's a graph that I saw that I'm trying to maybe the Guardian will yeah, so isn't it the... I'm not sure. So I know the New Popular Front is the leftists, right? They're the leftists, and the Ensemble, I believe they are the like centre left or liberals, I think. And National Rally, if that would be the... Hold on, I just realised I'm not sharing screen. I should probably do that. 1/3, not half. Okay. I can still share screen anyway, so that people know what I'm talking about. But yeah. I find it funny how even in France, Republicans are right wing, or at least that's what this implies here. Even though you'd think that Republicans would be left wing, being anti-monarchy and all that. Because I would consider myself a Republican, but not the US type of Republican. Anyway, we've got Dave from Colorado saying, straight democracy is majority rule. This country is not majority rule. If we were, it would take 6 major cities to decide what the country does. Instead, we are a constitutional republic. I don't like the idea that... because what you've got over there is minority rule. Sometimes. That is also a problem. That is why in New Zealand, we've got this thing where you elect an MP, you choose your local MP, and then you have a proportional representation list vote. That is to help decide. The problem that you get in America is a lot of people are disenfranchised. People want to vote for better candidates than the options that they've got. People would love to vote for the Green Party. People would love to vote for the Libertarian Party even. And however, the US system doesn't really give that option, because it's, first off, it's winner takes all. I know France isn't monarchy, but Republicans usually, as far as I can tell, Republicans usually are against monarchies. Constitutional republic, as I said, ends up being more fair. No, it doesn't. Well, I disagree. Because you can end up with minority rule. I don't think that minority rule is better than majority rule. And this is something weird that I find. This is going off a little bit on a tangent, but I find it weird that a lot of conservatives tend to be all about individualism. And conservatives are usually the people that I see defending the electoral college over in the US. And yet, when they talk about cities, they don't talk about people in cities as being individuals. They talk about it as a collective. Like, the collective of a city is all voting with each other because they're all what is it? It feels like they often define cities as, they're all voting in tandem, like it's a city that votes rather than rather than people in a city. I find that very weird. As a US citizen, I don't vote because the system is so messed up. A single vote doesn't always count as a single vote depending on where you live here. And that's what I mean. Like, the US system does disenfranchise a lot of people. If you are in a safe state, then what's the point of voting? And Nebulan does raise a good point. Vote local. Yeah, that is important. Like, a lot of people ignore local elections. It is important to vote in local elections. If you've got a city council election, vote in that, because sometimes it doesn't matter so much the big elections, but the local elections can make a difference. The Republicans rule via minority all the time, with overrepresented, sparsely populated states getting... Yeah, and I think that there are a lot of people in California that... I think there's a lot of people in California who would probably vote Republican even, but feel like it's pointless because it gets overruled. And in fact, I have more problems with the US system where it's winner take all. And sure, that's not the case in a few states. I think Maine and there's another one, but I don't know the name of the state. Maine and Colorado, maybe? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure one of them is Maine, where it does at least try to proportionately split the votes, the electoral votes between what the state voted for, but it's still not the best system. In the United States, each state runs its own election. Depending on who wins that state, the electors then vote for that person in the presidential election period. And that's a bad system, I don't like that system because it does mean that it's winner takes all. Nebraska, okay. Winner takes all is not a good system. Like, I don't like the idea that if a bunch of people vote, but they don't... I don't like the idea if 51% of the votes go towards a particular person, then that person essentially takes all the votes from that state. Split voice for every state would be cool. Trump would still take WV. Or WV? I don't know. Is that the state of Winova? I don't know. We have way more people than you guys. As good as we have come up with so far, unfortunately, it's gotten corrupt. Yeah. Also, I don't feel like politicians really like it. Like the idea behind the electoral college that a lot of people have is that small states don't get ignored, except small states always get ignored. You know, is anyone going to campaign in Alabama? Is a Democrat going to campaign in Alabama when it's, you know, solidly red? Probably not. They're going to focus on swing states, on the states that are going to change as much as, which are going to impact the election far more. That is a problem that you've got in America. It's a huge problem that I think a lot of people tend to ignore because, you know, it's like a lot of people like to think, oh well, at least my state is getting represented, and it's like, well, yeah, but not everybody in that state is getting represented. The electoral college isn't proportional either. How much of your vote count depends on the ratio of electoral college votes to the population in the state, and that's not fixed. Yeah, and also, like in New Zealand, the way that the list seats work, or the way that the proportional representation works, is it counts everyone who votes as well. It's not just population or anything of the state or of the seat. You know, divide the whole country into groups of 500,000. Have each half a million votes for representative by a single transferable vote. Appoint the clearest winners. I mean, yeah, single transferable vote would be better. That would mean that at least third parties would get a chance, which I think is good. Counts who votes. We would still have the same issue here in the USA. I think sometimes there are limits to what you can do. You know, you can have better like sometimes you can have better things. And the electoral college is a mess. I wouldn't want it here in New Zealand. Because the simple fact is, I feel like my vote wouldn't get counted as much. So yeah. I say give each county in the country one vote, then let each county run the election. Whoever wins at county gets the electoral votes from that county. I mean, that might work a little bit better than the electoral college, admittedly, but I still think it would be nice to have a popular vote. I think what we have here in New Zealand, where it is, we have the idea is we have a parliament. That parliament has 120-ish seats. Sometimes it can have a bit more. To form a government, you need half. I think it's like about half of those seats plus one or something like that to form a government. So you can form coalition governments if you don't get enough votes. Now, each part of the country is divided up into a bunch of electorates. When you vote in the election, you vote for someone to represent your seat in your electorate, and you vote for the party that you think will be best. Now, if you vote for, let's say you vote for the Labour Party, and the Labour Party wins in your electorate, that means that the person representing your seat will have a seat in Parliament. There will be a bunch of list MPs for each party, and if enough people vote for a party that they have more representation, like let's say that a party is unable to get any list seats, electoral seats, they're not completely discounted. Because of the simple fact is not everyone in an area will come together to vote for a certain person into Parliament. There may be a movement that is spread throughout the country that wants representation by a certain party. So that might be, let's say, the Greens. So over here in New Zealand, we will sometimes have, 14% of the country vote for the Greens. Now, Greens would never win 14% of the seats. That would never happen, because to do so, you'd have to have 14% of the seats, or 14% of the electorates, basically agree unanimously that the Greens are the best choice. They're usually going to go for one of the main parties. But that's not necessarily the case with, people around the country will feel different. So the idea is that they will still get 14% of Parliament because there is enough people in the country that feel like they should be represented by the Greens. That is a far better system. Because the idea is that you don't have to come together as a collective in a certain area. If your vote is confined to a certain area and all that area has to agree, then a lot of people are not going to be represented. That is the problem with the US idea. Because votes aren't... What people want isn't localized to a certain area. It's spread throughout a country. A lot of people in America would like a libertarian as president, or a libertarian in the government. However, none of them are localized to a particular area. They're not all in Florida. They're not all in Utah. They're throughout the United States. They don't get that option to have a libertarian as... And I use libertarian because, that seems to be the third biggest party in the States, but or at least last time I checked. I haven't checked in a while. But that seems to be the... And also, they're more aligned with, the right wing. And that's probably the easiest way to convince people that... Because the electoral college defenders tend to be more right wing from what I've seen. Might be some left wing ones. But yeah, I think that there's a fundamental idea when you try to... I think that there's a fundamental problem when you think that that representation is confined to an area. Another topic we could discuss is Mexico and the recent wave of assassinations. I haven't heard much about that. I think India might have a similar problem. I know that there's a bunch of countries that... Oh, there was a funny thing that happened. I think it was in... There was a coup that happened. An attempted coup. And it failed. Because the person who was attempting the coup... The person who was attempting the coup didn't tell people that he was attempting a coup. And so they thought, oh, we're just going to arrest this person for doing bad things. But then they didn't realize... Then they didn't have... There's some issue with... Some breakdown with orders and stuff. And then people realized, oh, wait, we're trying to do a coup here. We don't want to do this. I don't think anybody is going to ever agree on what system for elections would be the best. Everybody has their own opinion. Everybody thinks they are right. I think to some extent there are... Like, obviously there are some conflicts of what people think would be a good idea. Some people don't like the idea of the New Zealand system, and I can get like some problems that people might have. Like as I would say, one of the problems that the New Zealand system has is that sometimes small parties hold a bit too much power. That is a problem that we do have, but also I feel like I'm more represented. Collective. I feel like collective groups that are spread out over the country are more represented than if we had to be localized to be able to get the people we want in Parliament. I feel like the US system essentially relies on people being localized within an area, and I think that's a problem. Of course, the New Zealand system, you can be localised and get certain candidates in. Which has happened with Te Pāti Māori. Though Te Pāti Māori is not so much localised, because, or should I say, the seats that voted for Te Pāti Māori is not so much localised. They are... There's two roles. There's the general role and then there's Māori role. And the general role is basically you've got the electoral seats, but then there's the Māori role, which if you are of Māori descent, you can get on that role and vote for people to represent the Māori seats. And that's basically a way to have Māori be represented in Parliament. Regardless of where Māori are located throughout the country. And there are people... I think that's good. There are people, obviously, that don't like that idea. But I did want to bring up some stuff when it comes to the French election, because, as I said, there were people that were really disappointed. I don't know if I'd be able to find the tweets, but I saw tweets from... I saw tweets from Catard. I know. Very, very trustworthy, I say sarcastically. But there was a sort of sense that people were lamenting the whole idea of France's far right not getting into power. There were people saying that France will fall or something. France will be destroyed. And I don't think that's the case. And I can't take anyone seriously if they're saying that the results of a election will destroy the country. I can take I know that people are saying... I know that there are probably a few people that say that if Donald Trump gets elected, he'll destroy the country. I don't think that he'll destroy the country. I think that he'll make the country worse. There are people... I remember what the End Wokeness, I think it was, account said. I think it was something like, France will not be saved now because the far right didn't get into power. And the whole idea is that they think that... the whole idea is generally anti-immigrant. They think that immigrants are flooding into the country and are going to destroy the country. That's not the case. It's... immigrants often... I find that immigrants actually aren't that bad, as a lot of people like to paint them. People have an idea of an immigrant, but immigrants... a lot of them can be coming from countries... A lot of them will be coming from countries that may not have the best... system. And so they want a country where their life will be better. Do you think they want to get kicked out of that country because of, or locked up in that country? I would hazard a guess that they don't. And so, yeah, I think that, I don't think that a lot of the fear-mongering about immigrants is justified. And also, there's the whole thing where they try to attribute it to a conspiracy. I've seen people, attributing the, they're attributing immigration to anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. And it's like, I'm not sure whether it was the last time, but I'm not exactly sure if it was the last time, but there was one time in Europe where a lot of people decided that an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory was true, and then the person, who was appealing to those people eventually got into power, maybe not through... I don't think he was quite elected into power. But he got into power, and then that destroyed the country. Not only did it destroy the country, it destroyed a lot of Europe as well. I'm not a particular fan of that happening again. Very weird that that people would think that appealing to the same thing. Was this person a fan of the Charlie Chaplin moustache? Yeah. It's very weird that people would think, let's try this thing again. To save a country. You're gonna destroy that country if you try that again. I mean, he was... If I'm correct, and again, I'm not... There are some things which I might be wrong on, but if I'm correct, he wasn't elected... He wasn't, didn't get a majority of the votes or something? If I'm correct... Because I remember there's been, discourse on... Yeah, Hitler... saying that Hitler wasn't actually elected... But yeah, Planet Walker, you are echoing a little bit. It's not bad, but still an echo of your voice echo. I don't know what would be causing that. Yeah. Yeah, he was appointed Chancellor by a party with someone else leading it, and then the party passed a new law that said he had absolute power. Yeah. It's... I believe he wasn't, directly elected, but, obviously he would have gotten enough. And here's the thing! He also, attempted a coup. I don't think that people who attempt a coup should be allowed to... Honestly, I don't think they should be allowed to run for, power. Because... That is a thing that happened. They attempted a coup, and then they caused huge problems in that country. So, yeah, maybe not allow people who run for coup, who attempt a coup to run for power. You're like an insurrection. They tried that thing, didn't work, got some jail time, then still decided to, still was allowed to run for power. Can't be anything wrong with that. I can't see anything wrong with that going wrong again, because, things that happened in the past would never happen again today. I say sarcastically. Planner, you are thinking too logically. I try to think logically. But, a lot of things are vibes based, I think, when it comes to a lot of politics. That is the problem that a lot of people have. They'll think, we've got people that think that the Labour Party in New Zealand is like will implement communism. The Labour Party in New Zealand will never implement communism. I think people have warped ideas of like when they go to vote, it's like, oh well, Labour is going to implement communism. Communism is USSR stuff, so we're not going to vote for Labour. Whereas for me, it's like, okay, well, what policies does Labour have? What policies does the Green have? Which one do I agree with more? And even if National came out with some really based policies, I would consider them. Unfortunately, in the last election, National didn't really have a lot of good policies. In fact, a lot of the policies that they did have, wasn't a big fan of. We're getting something like some people are getting a $20 tax cut per fortnight. So $10 a week. However, for a lot of people, it's going to cost more. They're not in like taxes, but in what they have to spend for stuff. They're removing they're going to re-implement the $5 prescription fee, which means that if you have to get medication, you have to pay $5 for that medication. Which means for my estrogen, $5 for estrogen, $5 for progesterone, $5 for Cypro. Also depends what dosage of estrogen, because if I've got like two different dosages, that's actually $10. Now, that's not quite enough to reach. I'm not sure if that's enough to reach the amount that I'm getting back. But then there's also other expenses that a lot of people will have to pay, like not road user charges, registration charges for a vehicle. I don't have a vehicle, fortunately. But if I did have a vehicle, my registration fee would be going up to pay for tax cuts. Also, they're not spending. They've decided to not invest in public infrastructure to pay for tax cuts. They've decided with the ferries that things are going wrong with the ferries to sort of roll back a lot of what they're doing. Try and go for the cheap option. The issue is that in the long run, a lot of this is going to cost people more than what they're going to get in tax cuts. I'm not a big fan of getting $20 a fortnight, but having to spend $30 extra a fortnight. I don't think that's a good idea. The people that benefit from a lot of this, the people that benefit from this the most are going to be people with a lot more money. Because the tax cuts, I don't think they've increased tax on the wealthy. They've just cut tax across the board. Except if you are poor, you don't benefit from a tax cut, really. Free healthcare in Ireland is €80 a month. In Sweden, it's about 2,500 a year. In New Zealand, healthcare is semi-free. And to explain what I mean, if I go to the hospital, which I have gone to the hospital a few times, but like when I went to the hospital for a few months back, you might remember, that was completely free. I did not have to pay a single thing. If I was over in America, I'd probably need to sell body parts. Might need, probably a good idea to, might be a good idea to sell certain body parts over others. Could be an idea. But, In New Zealand, completely free. When I go to my GP, I have to pay $40 per visit. That is not free. If I want to get medication, currently it's free, but they're going to re-implement $5 for medication prescribed by my GP. There's also something that is very not free, and that is dental work. Now, I've recently got my teeth all done up. I mean, there's still mismatches and everything, so you can see that here, teeth aren't fully aligned, but that's, teeth do that sometimes. That's the most I've had to pay is for my teeth. It was like a few $100s for my teeth. There are private options in New Zealand for certain things. Like, I know that for if I wanted to get if I wanted to get an ADHD diagnosis, I could go on the public list or I could go on the private list. Private list costs some people say like a few $1,000s, which is terrifying, honestly. But yeah, it's something where it depends on what you're getting. There is a lot of, you can get bottom surgery and top surgery for free in New Zealand. I think it's for free. But there is a huge wait list, and you're not guaranteed to get on that wait list as well. So that's the public option. You can also go private, which, can also involve going up. A lot of people just go over to Thailand. I know one person who has gone over to Thailand and a second person who is going over to Thailand to get bottom surgery. So it's not perfect here in New Zealand, but it's better than other countries. UK is free visits to the doctor and hospital, free ambulance, free operations, but £9 per item for prescriptions. You can get a card that covers unlimited prescriptions for some set fee. Okay, yeah. We don't have free visits to the doctor. It would be good if we did. But I think there are worries. I think some people have worries. Also, teeth, tooth care, dental work isn't covered. But as I said, not perfect, but better than some other countries. I think that one of the problems that the UK has is that the NHS has been severely underfunded, and that does lead to long wait times. Did someone just message me? I don't know if someone messaged me or not. Sometimes get that. I know technically people are messaging me in chat, but I think it was just a random notification. But enough politics. What's other things that's been going on in the world? For me, I've actually had a few ideas when it comes to mathematical ideas. Because, I like doing mathematical ideas. I like doing maths. I've been doing some programming lately. And I had an idea. Because I worked out that, I could do I think it's a cupboard. I think it's cupboard, or a... Is there another name for cupboard? I feel like there's another name, but I worked out that you could do a cupboard. I feel like there's another... name for it? Hold on, let me search it up. Because I keep on forgetting the projection name. Cupboard Pro... Cabinet projection. I've worked out that you can do cabinet projection in 3D, or do modeling in 3D and then convert it to a cabinet projection. And I was thinking, that's not too hard. Like, sure, you have to do a few things in terms of scaling on the basically in 2D on the Y plane, but that's not too hard. You can literally just set the camera up for that. The France discussion didn't last long, admittedly. Yeah, it is one of those things where it's weird, you know. There's a lot of people from America talking about that, and you know, it doesn't impact their life. They're worried about something. They're worried about another country, even though nothing's going to happen. You know. Anyway, as I was saying, cabinet projection. I've worked out that there is a way that you can do a cabinet projection, but model everything in 3D. And it's like, I might do that. All it requires is an orthographic camera, and to skew everything based on the Z coordinates. I think the camera has to be tilted 30 degrees. So basically, if this is 0 degrees, then it would have to be pointing down 30 degrees. And that would, at least depending on how, that depends on the ratio you want. And that could be something that I could use, though that does require rewrites. But then again, if I'm doing 3D stuff and 3D stuff runs slowly in GameMaker, then it might be worth getting some faster 3D stuff. I actually watched a thing about why C++ is used in a lot of things, and how other languages are not as good as C++, even though games could probably use other languages other than C++. Heck, a BBC micro emulator can do all those calculations for your spreadsheet can. I mean, I think that one of the advantages that 3D modeling has is that I'm not going to 3D model everything. There are times when obviously certain sprites using sprites for certain things are going to be a lot faster. But like sometimes it can be just fun to be like, okay, well, let's put this here, put this here, put this here, and we've got a thing. I think the hardest thing is going to be draw order, honestly, and you know, reducing Z fighting. I don't know how big of a problem though Z fighting is when it comes to. I don't know how big of a problem Z fighting is when it comes to 2D projections. I know it's a huge, or when it comes to an orthographic view. I know it's a huge problem when it comes to. Okay, so I should probably explain what Z fighting is. So, Z fighting is essentially when you've got two things that occupy the same, very similar space. And this is due to floating point numbers. And a floating point number is basically a number with a decimal, which can be in a number of places. But the idea with Z fighting is that there's a bit of imprecision there. And so a certain value at one point, something at one point may have a certain value, then another point there may be a slightly different value, and you're checking to see whether something is in front or behind that. But if it's close enough to it, it may sometimes have inconsistent values for the depth. And so it goes, okay, well, at this point, this one's in front, but at this point, this one is in front, but at this point, this one's in front again, due to rounding errors and stuff like that. So you get this weird-looking thing when it comes to video games, and that is often called Z-fighting. If you're completely still in a video game and you're looking at two things that occupy the same area, then you're not going to get any issues. However, if you're moving around, then the Z-fighting is going to go crazy. I think I can get an example of Z-fighting in video games. Images. So let's go open image in new tab. So this is an example of Z-fighting here. Oh, that's not the one I wanted to. So this here is an example of Z-fighting. So this blue one, where my mouse is considered to be in front. However, this, I don't know what color that is. It seems to be a few colors. However, right here, this one is considered to be in front. But then you can see that there's areas in between that the blue one is considered to be in front. That's Z-fighting. And Jess On for 20 Australian dollars says, good to see you. And it's good to see you too. It's good to see everyone. Well, welcome everyone. I'm glad people actually watch my live streams. It's fun. We have fun times. Z-fighting is something that you want to avoid in game development. It can be difficult to avoid it, though, depending on what type of game you are building. I've managed to come up with a few ways to avoid Z-fighting. The way that I avoid Z-fighting is I have multiple passes. So I can have a far pass and then a close, so a far pass and a close pass. That's one way to avoid Z-fighting, because it means that the area that you could get Z-fighting is restrained a bit. I'm sure games like Unreal Engine have managed to avoid Z-fighting a lot more, because, I haven't seen. I don't know what the far plane and the average far plane and near plane is for Unreal Engine. The way I avoid fighting is by not going outside and not understanding what you're talking about. That is one way to avoid fighting. But as a programmer, you may encounter Z-fighting, which is, to be fair, the PlayStation didn't have any Z-fighting because it had no Z buffer. Just get rid of the Z buffer and you have no Z-fighting at all, whatsoever. You see, let me explain the Z buffer to all of you. Essentially, it's just depth. It records the depth of an object. Basically, it's the distance to an object. Kind of. There's a few. Okay, here's a secret. In video games, the Z buffer doesn't actually record the depth or the distance to an object. It uses transforms to go, okay, well, this, at least I don't think it records the distance. I may be wrong about that, but it basically utilizes transformation matrices, and So what you're getting is a depth value rather than a distance value. Distance value is based on the Pythagorean theorem, which, basically in a 3D, I actually worked out that it's easy to just add more. You can calculate the distance. You can calculate the distance in 4D space pretty easily, no matter which dimension. A squared plus b squared equals c squared is 2D space. Let's say that c squared is the distance is x. So a squared plus b squared equals x squared, right? So 3D space would be a squared plus b squared plus c squared equals x squared. 4D space is just a squared plus b squared plus c squared plus d squared equals x squared. It's wild how you can just scale distance up like that. Wild. Yeah, or r squared is a good... explaining, but... Basically, Z buffer is essentially an image. So, if you want to render anything to the screen, you're rendering an image. But the Z buffer is another image that's rendered, but not saved to the screen. What that does is it just records the depth. How far away, and that's roughly how far away from the camera the things that are being drawn are. And the reason this is used is if you have two intersecting planes, and so if this plane gets drawn first and then this plane gets drawn, you want to draw half the plane rather than the... you just want to draw half the plane. You don't want to draw the entire plane because they're intersecting, right? They go through each other. So, you have a depth buffer. So when this plane is drawn, you know the distance to it, and if any part of this plane is closer than the distance to this plane, then it gets drawn in front of it. Essentially, it's a way to have polygons colliding with each other yet still be visible. The PlayStation 1 had issues where polygons would have to be sorted all individually. You had to draw from back to front, and they had to be sorted like that. And so you'd sometimes have polygons that would be a little bit closer, and so they'd pop in, or like the entire polygon would pop in at once, and then if it goes out, then it would pop out. The depth, and also it helps with fragment shaders because of the simple fact, and now fragment shaders are basically per pixel things, because if something is behind another thing, you can just discard it. You can just discard any pixels that it would draw to, because it's with the Z buffer, you can essentially draw, instead of drawing back to front, you can draw front to back. Whereas with there are still times when you might want to draw back to front. If, like for 2D games, I think that's often utilized, or if you want to draw alpha, it's often utilized. And alpha obviously is transparency. Is that why Lara Croft had triangular boobies? No, that is just because of polygon count. They wanted to keep the polygon count low, and you do that with by having smaller triangles. The Z buffer is a way to order triangles properly and only draw the right one. It allows to do that on per pixel on screen, not per triangle, as intersecting triangles would not render properly without. That's basically a good explanation. One of the things is, like, I generally know the ideas in my head, and communicating them can be a little bit difficult, because, what Sable Eagle saying, okay, so you can build a pair of walls at right angles, and build a tower of those cylinders at any position on the base plate. That's a little Blender time. It is Blender time to show you what to explain concepts. We are going to that's not the. We are going to add a plane, right? And we are going to scale it up to 4, right? We are going to rotate. Wait, no. We're going to go 3 and rotate 90 degrees. We have a plane. Nothing is going to really appear. Nothing really appears. It's a plane. It's 2 triangles. Now we are going to add another plane. I'm going to scale it up to. Did I? No, I went 4. 4. And these planes, they intersect. But you can see that this plane is clearly in front of this plane here. Why is that? Why is that? Why is this plane in front of this plane at some parts, but this plane is in front of the other plane at some parts? Because this one of these, I don't know which one of them is sent to the GPU first. The entire thing is rendered. The entire thing gets rendered, and then it sends the other one to the GPU. And then it looks at where this one occupies, and works out the distance to it. If a position on this plane is further than the distance to this plane, then it does not render it. However, if the distance is closer, then it does. Or if the space that this one is occupying is not occupied, or if the space that this one is occupying is, or if there's no space occupied by this one, then it will also render. That's essentially the point of a Z buffer. The reason why it's called a Z buffer is because you've got X, Y, and Z. And Z is the distance rather than the... so X would be along the X-axis, Y would be along the Y-axis, Z is out from the camera. So basically, yeah, Z buffer is basically... can be described as an image that you don't see, but influences what you do see. Okay, what did I miss and why are we explaining 3D graphics? I'm trying to explain 3D graphics to people because I like 3D graphics. I've been working on 3D graphics. Want to see my 3D graphics? I mean, I've shown people some of my 3D graphics. Like I've been working on some stuff. So if I press F5 on this program, it should work. There we go, it works. Now, this window here that you see actually doesn't do anything yet because I am still working on the functionality for it. It's just copying a bunch of things and refactoring it. But then there's this window here, which you should obey this window, by the way. Give me your liver. Actually, let's just, like... make sure that everyone is listening. Give me your liver. I think I hit it, maybe. There we go. That hit. Direct hit. So, yeah, I should probably put the bullets back. Where did they go? I don't know. Very easy to lose Nerf darts. But yeah, you should give me your liver. Anyway, yeah, 3D graphics here. Now technically this does not have a Z buffer. This is me if I were to be able to have 2 cubes there rather than 1 cube, and I could put 2 cubes there, technically, it's actually not a cube. It only has 3 sides, but you don't get to see the other 3 sides. And, like, one of the sides is munted. So, you know. But, it's not a cube. Because it only has 3 sides. It's 6 triangles masquerading as a cube. And it's 6 triangles in a trench coat masquerading as a cube. With fancy textures of me telling you to give me your liver. The advantages of having peony nopes. Says, fun fact, I'm also working on a custom 3D renderer. Yeah, and one of the cool things is that you can do cool things with a 3D renderer. I could do this in GameMaker. I could literally make this in GameMaker. It's not hard. In fact, it would be easier in GameMaker. I regret to inform you that the crease is visible on the left face and that my liver is probably wrecked from heavy drinking around 2000. I mean, yeah. The crease is visible because I was testing to see... I was testing something. Right, so let me close that down. I was testing something over here. Because I'm not that good at C++. I'll admit, I'm not that great. But I was testing this. And if I bring it over... So I was testing something here. I was testing that this works. And it turns out that it does work. But I had to make sure. So basically... have a bunch of vertices. I was making sure you can basically add vertices and define what type they are as you add them. So vector 3, and vector 2. And yeah, that works, which is great. C++ like Python, but not as infuriatingly stupid and dysfunctional. Sometimes I get infuriated at C++, but I do like some of the features that it has. Like, I like how this works, right? I can just say, hey, send in a vector 3, and a vector 2. Then send in this data here, which is a vector 3, and a vector 2. Or... I could go mesh dot add vertex vector 2 9 5. This would crash probably. Actually, I don't think it would actually. Maybe. It might say, hey, we can't do this. But this would work. I'm going to see if it works. I'm going to see if it crashes at all. Let's see. No, it works. It works. It works fine. Because it's not trying to do anything with what I just added. Also, what am I getting? Oh, I haven't destroyed the image view. Yeah. It's giving me errors. It's complaining. To be fair, I haven't actually done anything too much to... As someone who literally can't use C++ with syntax highlighting because of sensory overload, I disagree. I like C++ because of... certain features it has. I can basically... I do like being able to pass... I like the templates. I really like how templates work. And maybe it works the same way in C#, but I like it because of that. I don't like the whole idea of memory management and pointers and all that. It gets infuriatingly complex after a while. C++, you can indent by 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 19, 17, and 19 spaces if you really... I don't know what you... I don't know what entirely you mean there, but I do agree that templates are great. For anyone that's not into the know of code, templates are essentially... You can basically say, hey, with this bit of data, we expect this particular type of data, and then you can pass that type of data through to it, and you can also say, hey, this returns this particular type, but the type can change depending on what the user says that the type is going to be. For this, it's a little bit complicated, but it works. Because I have had to go to the I think it's vertex format here. And I've had to say, hey, we're going to take a number of templates, a number of types here. And we're just going to put it into a buffer that's not even the type. We're gonna treat this like it is the type. Hopefully it is. But we're also gonna just double check to make sure it's the right size. If it's the right size, you get a pass. You can put it in there. If it's the wrong size, forget about it. But yeah. But it is it took a while for me to understand this. Basically, yeah, it took a while for me to fully understand this, to understand, hey, what is this actually doing? And then it's like, oh, well, basically, what it is doing is it sends... So, the way it works is it just sends the arguments to another function. Right? Sends all these arguments to a function here. And that function will take the first one and do something with it, but it will also consider all the rest as separate arguments, as separate things. And then there is one, then in the last one, then there's a variation where it doesn't have any more than just, I'm not. Yeah, there's a variation for when it has nothing, and when it has nothing, it basically stops doing things. So I'm going to bring up Paint, because Paint is probably the best way to explain it. So, the idea: you send a few variables through. Send this one and this one. So you want to do something with them, but you don't know how many you got. So what you do is you send it through to something that divides the first one from the rest. And what it does is it sends the rest of them to the same function. Except this function will basically, if we get rid of it, it'll basically not see this first one here, but instead see the last two. It'll divide the first one it sees from the rest, and then send the last one to the same function. And the function will see this and go, okay, yeah, well, we'll send this one here to the last one will go, okay, we'll do the stuff with this last one, but then we've got nothing else to send to it. So it essentially calls a different function which doesn't do anything. Hopefully this has explained it a bit. I like programming. It's hard to explain sometimes because it is a lot of different concepts. But it is understandable. Me 2 seconds ago. I'm sick of making this terrain tool. All these vertexes? Don't you mean vertices? Are making my head spin. Oh, cool. Planet Walk streaming sounds chill. We're doing 3D stuff in here. I'm making an entire programming language because I crave more static typing than existing languages can provide. I'm trying to think. Because I often get static typing confused with strong... Oh yeah, I think I like static... Yes, I like static typing. Strong typing is... I'm a bit of on. I think it is. Because strong typing is, I believe, is the thing where it doesn't convert well. Whereas static typing is you have a particular type and it stays a particular type. And you can't reassign it. Like, JavaScript is not a statically typed language, and I do not... Static typing is when variables have types. Yes, I like when variables have types. To explain to the non-programmers in chat, imagine you're making a pizza. You got a pizza maker, but you can put a pizza in and it turns into a burrito. But you don't want a burrito. That's dynamic typing. Static typing is whenever a pizza always will be a pizza, no matter what. And you have to tell it, this is going to be a pizza. There are advantages. Now, some people don't see the advantage to static typing. It's like, oh, well, what if I want to change it to something else? What if I want the pizza to change into a burrito? The issue with dynamic typing is that it does get to the point where it's like, sometimes you want a particular type and nothing else. Like, if I want an integer, I want that integer to be an integer. I don't want it to be a float. There are times when you might want an integer and you get a float. I don't like floats. Not all the time. Oh yes, that's another problem with Python. What kind of variable something is depends on how you introduce it. You can't say go get an integer. You have to fart around converting stuff. Yeah, I want an integer. If I'm doing certain variable stuff, I want an integer. How do you create a new language? Don't you then need a language for the computer to understand the new language? How does that first language get turned into a pixel? Does it have a language? So, as someone who has created a language, no joke, I have created a language. I can actually... I think I have that. Hold on. Visual Studio 2022. Open a project or solution. Let me just go to... Oh, it will be in documents. That's right. Be here. Okay, hopefully this works. Okay. So we're just going to go new project. We're going to call it my project. Okay, so here we've got... I've also created an IDE for it. So we're going to... go here. It's been a while since I've used it, and we can go print hello world. Oh wait, I've got to... Wait, is it capital or lowercase? I can't remember. Hold on, let me... I think it might be capital. So, if I run this... Oh. Hold on. No, I don't want to... Sleep. 10. Run. I think that's in milliseconds, so we're just gonna go sleep 1,000. Run. Hello world! Hey! I just wrote a program in my own language! Everybody clap. Everybody clap. Not only did I write my code in my own language, but I ran it. But I wrote it in my own IDE. There's also another trick I can do, which is the advantage of creating your own language. I can do another trick. See, there's this little box down here that says C#. We're gonna just change it to HTML. Run. Just once. Hello world! I have just run this in a browser. So I can compile that to C# and compile it to exe, or compile to JavaScript. It's HTML because it has to create this thing here where it puts hello world on the screen. Everybody needs to clap for that. But can it run on a fridge? Does your fridge have a browser? Because if so, then yes, probably. But how is the computer doing that? It must have a code to understand that is used to understand what you wrote. And then how does it read that code? So basically, what it's doing is I'm using what's called a transpiler. Yes, I'm trans. Yes, I use a transpiler. So it takes that and converts it to another language. So in this case, it will convert it to either C# or HTML, then or JavaScript. JavaScript is something that runs in browser, and the compilation is done in the browser. However, when it comes to C#, that compiles via .NET. So I just call a .NET compiler on the C# code, and that compiles it. The compilers essentially compile stuff to what is called assembly code. Well, not actually, no, it's not. It doesn't compile to assembly code. It compiles to bytecode, which assembly code is the human readable version of. Wait, no, machine code. Bytecode, I think, is different. Yeah, I'm pretty sure bytecode is different. Bytecode is what Java uses, I'm pretty sure. But yeah. There's different ways of compiling things as well. But yeah, we can go string a equals, and this is strongly typed, not strongly typed, statically typed language. So I can go string a equals input and then we can go print. Oh, I could have just gone down here and gone input. We're gonna go print what is your name? And then we do the thing, and then we're gonna go hello A plus, and this should run. Run. What is your name? Planner. Hello, Planner. Oh, I forgot that. I forgot how it works. But it should work the same if I switch it to C sharp. I'm gonna go run. What is your name? Planner. Hello, Planner. C sharp is compiled to bytecode, then when you run it, the just-in-time compiled converts it to machine code. Okay. That is why the same C sharp program can run on different processors. Yeah, like, it'd be fun to explain computing on its entirety. But, like, this is something that I've managed to do. You know, it is fun. There is also other things I can do. There's like other features to this. I can't remember all the features, but yeah, there is strongly typed, not strongly typed, statically typed variables, and it's all done via Transpiler. The idea that I had for this is essentially Python is slow, but I do like some features of Python. So what if I took the features that I like of Python, which is, you know, things like being able to just hit print, not having to import stuff, and use that. And so I decided, okay, yeah, well, I'll have, you know, you'll be able to just hit print, not have to import anything. You know, simple things. Input is just input, rather than console.read line. Yeah, so that kind of stuff I think is. I think that kind of stuff is something I like. Frameworks open up capabilities and libraries. Yeah. And I also, I think there's something else I wanted. I also wanted these statically typed variables, because I like statically typed variables. I do not like I do not like dynamically typed variables, which is something that Python has. Like, Python would be a good language if it weren't for the fact that its variables are dynamic. So I decided I'm just gonna have everything statically typed. And so you can, you know, and you can go int. I don't remember all the types of variables there are. I know there's string, there's int. Did I include byte? No, I didn't include byte. I only use C sharp, and it peeves me how often people declare variable with var in tutorials. Yeah, I agree with you. IDEs like typed languages. Yeah, I do like typed. I do think IDEs are better with typed languages because I've been used with GameMaker. It complains if you don't have statically typed things, and it's like, oh, well, I don't know what it needs here. Just turn on the type checker for Python if your IDE has that. I mean, that's a possibility, but I like declaring my variables. I like to go string A equals, you know, as I've done here. You can write snake in this, by the way. I have done so. That is something that I have done. I wrote snake in my own programming language. But yeah, this is something I'm proud of. You know, it's not every day you write your own programming language, and it's not exactly easy. I kind of gave up because it's like, I'll just kind of, I don't know if I'm gonna use this, but yeah, as people are saying, var. I don't like var. I kind of get the use for it in some instances. However, I much prefer the C++ implementation of auto. I like auto in some cases because it's like, oh, I want this. I don't want to type this whole thing out again. I've used auto a few times. In C# I use var all the time when I write code, but then I use the IntelliSense function to replace it with the actual type. What about name type equals value? I think isn't that what Python does? Also, I think I did something weird. I just realized it won't work with input. I've realized that the code doesn't quite work if I go string B C equals A, and then I go A plus B, oh, that's not that, B plus C. This doesn't do what you would expect, I think, because I decided to do things weird. Because if I hit run, that's what it does. I don't think people expect that usually, but, you know, I decided, oh, let's do it this way. Rust and Zig have keywords like var and let. Yeah, I have heard about Rust, and I don't like it. I don't like when you can't overload stuff. I like my overloads. I like being able to have multiple definitions for a function. Note that in C# when using var, it's still statically typed. The compiler just figures out the type. Yeah, that's basically what auto does in C++. C++ is pretty good in that respect, that you can just declare something as an auto variable, and it will automatically decide which type it is. I do like C#, but I also like the speed of C++. Is that what overloading is? Good to know that I do that a lot. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure it's basically having, like, if you've got a function, having like multiple definitions for it. Wait, is that? Hold on, is that overloaded? I'm going to double check. I was having a conversation about like something that Rust doesn't have. Let me check. Let me just double check. Because like definitions can be lost on me sometimes. Is it? Yeah, function overloading. Yeah, so overloading is having several functions with the same name and different parameters. I searched it up because I remember searching it up when someone said about overloading is not in Rust, and I'm like, we're talking about like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about like overloading operators? Because you can do that, and I do like when you can do that in languages, when you can say, hey, x plus c and the type A plus type B equals this, and you define how they add together. I like that. Bruce Wayne is asking what happened. We found out your true. We found out Batman's identity, Bruce. And that's what happened. I also wrote my own language and IDE for it a few years. It's been a couple of years at this point, isn't it? Like almost 2 years ago. It's wildly incomplete, but it can do stuff, and it can compile to, or technically it transpiles to C# or HTML. That's why you see this code converted and thing down here in the debug. Program compile. So code converted in 0 seconds. Program compiled in 0.8 seconds. And for JavaScript, I think for JavaScript it compiles, the compiling also includes copying certain files to a certain directory. I remember reading an article saying Rust is the future, and after reading about it in the same article, I remember not liking it. Yeah, I hear a lot of people talk about Rust and say that Rust is great. I'm not a big fan, personally. I from what I've heard of it, I just don't like it. What politics happened that made things weird? There was French politics, there was American politics, and there were UK politics. I could go over it again, but like people don't like me talking about politics. So I avoid talking about politics as much as I can. Unless like there's something that I want to talk about. Like if it's New Zealand politics, I'm going to talk about politics because I like New Zealand politics. It's a country that I live in. But if it's politics in another country, then I'm going to keep it brief. And I like talking about programming as well. Because programming is my wheelhouse. I know about programming. Even if I can't describe it accurately, I do like programming. Whether it be like programming a language in an IDE. I suppose I could technically try to make a compiler that works like for things, which I did think about doing, but then I decided, nah, I'm not going to do that. I got bored of making my own language. Oh yeah, another thing you may have noticed is this works. This code works. I didn't have a semicolon there. You don't need... This works without semicolons. Most of the time. Let me get rid of all the semicolons. Here we go. Okay. Most of the time it works without semicolons. Most of the time it works without semicolons. Most of the times. I so many times I've got an error because there's no semicolon. Rust is pretty cool. I have the same problem that I do with C++. What I'm curious what that is. JavaScript also works without semicolons most of the times. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I was going for with this language. It doesn't need semicolons. Also, one of the things I don't like about Python, which I wanted to fix with this language, because I can go... oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I can go if A is equal to planner, we're gonna go there, and we're gonna go else. We're gonna just copy. Hold on, does Control C and Control V work? Let's check. It does. Yes. Hello. We're gonna go. We're just gonna go. Good girl. Okay. Oh, that's... Okay, so we're gonna run this, and so we can go planner, and we get good girl. And if we run this again and go Dave, hello Dave. It's yeah, but making it type good girl is a lot better. And so, essentially, yeah, this is, it uses, the thing that I don't like about Python is that it uses white space as syntax. My language doesn't do that. It's much closer to JavaScript, and the syntax is very bad. Yeah, I need to change the syntax highlighting. Well, if I was continuing with it, I'd need to change the syntax highlighting. I just chose random colors, and yeah, that's something that I'd need to fix if I were to work on it more. But I don't need to work on it more. I'd probably I don't know how to choose colors for syntax highlighting, honestly. When it comes to things, I'd just go, oh, okay, that's good enough for that. There's not even a dark mode. Is there? I don't think I put in a dark... I think dark mode is choose random colors every time you start it. That'd be fun. Yeah, I was thinking of having like different themes and like, you know, grabs themes and stuff. But yeah, it does, like it is something that it works. The code does work, which is something that, you know, I can say that I managed to create my own language. Sure, it's not anything fancy, and it's just a transpiler, literally just a transpiler. But like, consider this. Has a flat earther managed to do anything like this? No. The answer is no. Flat earther has never managed to create a transpiler. So I can use this as bragging rights over people that call me stupid. So yeah, no. Not well, yeah, we could say not that we know of. I wonder what happens. Or like, honestly Sig2Ant, it's honestly anyone that calls me stupid. You know, Ken Wheeler fans, transphobes that say, oh, you're trans, you don't know anything. Have you managed to create a transpiler? Probably, if you're transphobic, probably not. I wonder what happens if I click this. Does it break? No, it doesn't break. Good. Because I was worried. I keep on getting... Nim is a transpiled language. I do not know about Nim. I keep on getting notifications on my phone. And it's just random notifications. But yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I've managed to do. Let me close that down. Because we can talk more about rendering stuff. Because, you know, this is probably a bigger achievement. Actually managing to do this. You know, managing to create something that renders triangles has been very complicated. When I finally get all the C++ working, I'll be able to like, because I can actually also import models. I'm going to write my own importer for this. When I say my own importer, so basically when it comes to 3D models, I can write an importer for GLTF, and that will allow me to define how bones are set up, because bones are very important, and animations are set up. What I'm trying to say is your language being transpiled doesn't make it any worse than a language that compiles to native. I agree. Like, the whole idea with transpiling it, then compiling it is so... Well, the whole idea behind me transpiling it is so that it can be compiled to multiple different platforms. Because you could write an entire game in JavaScript. I have written an entire game, not in JavaScript, but in that engine. It was a Snake game. But in that, not engine, in that IDE, in my language, and then that transpiled to JavaScript. You can write entire games like that. Maybe not it may not be ideal, but like anybody with a web browser would be able to run it. It'd be interesting though to like write a web-based game, because I think they're now creating. I know that there's WebGL, but I think there's like a new web. I think there's Web GPU coming out or something, but I'm not entirely sure about it. C++ transpiles to C, or at least it did at some point. Maybe, I don't know. The engine I used to use, Construct, was about 100% JavaScript under the hood. Not that they have script. Who turns off JavaScript scripts these days? I have not heard of anyone that disables JavaScript scripts. And if you're turning off JavaScript on web, then like you're probably not going on the web to play a game, honestly. But yeah, I remember when web games were... Yeah, I remember when web games were... You needed either Java enabled to be able to play them, or you needed... Oh, what's the things? There was Java to play them. There's also the Unity thing, or Flash. I'm probably showing my age. You need Flash. Tor has them off by default. Oh, okay. I don't use Tor. Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting how the web, there's like a lot of things you can do on the web that that you can just do via JavaScript. I remember doing a decent amount via JavaScript for like the third year paper that for a paper in third year. I think a lot of what I wrote was just JavaScript, or I remember one part of it was C++. Like I basically wrote a calendar in not C++, C#. Wrote a calendar in C# that was given to the user in HTML. And a lot of what I did was JavaScript for using Google Maps. And then I just like had a few buttons off to the side that someone else made look pretty with CSS. I was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna, and it was a really well written like piece of code. I think, click on point A, click on point B, draws a line between them. Then you can save that, and it just takes the polyline, stores it in a database. I was a little bit concerned when it came to polylines. I thought I'd have to go ahead and decode it, but no, it turns out that the decoding and all that, it handles it itself. So basically you can retrieve the polylines from the database and it just puts them on the map. Technically speaking, nearly all of your website can be JS. Yeah, you could literally just have a canvas, which is an HTML canvas, and then like just draw to that canvas via JavaScript. Probably not the most efficient way to render a web page, but it's possible. I do dislike how HTML has basically, it's the standard. I hate how HTML is the standard, and I wish there was a more programming standard that, you know, wasn't JavaScript, was fast. Java, Applets, or Flash Multimedia, that was before Unity was even a thing, yeah. And then, but like a lot of games, it's always been a thing where it's like, oh, you need this to be able to play it, and it's like, just make it in JavaScript. It is possible to make a game in JavaScript. You could use JavaScript to create all the elements HTML would create. The problem that I have with using JavaScript to create all the elements that HTML would make is, would you be able... I don't know how to position HTML elements. When I say what I mean by that, by the way, is CSS is tough. I do not like CSS. If I want to position something, it takes like 50 different CSS things to make it work for some reason. And then if I want to do another thing, it takes another 50 CSS changes. And half of them don't seem to be doing anything, but if you remove one of them, for some reason everything breaks. I do not understand CSS. CSS is a lot easier nowadays. There have been massive improvements in the last couple of years. Okay. I still have no intention of getting back into CSS. Because, yeah, when I was using it, it was horrible. You understand CSS perfectly. That's how it works. Yeah. Yeah. The idea of when using CSS is, hey, this thing should change this, but it actually doesn't. You also need this to change it for some reason, but then also sometimes that doesn't work either, because you actually need this to change it. It's like, god damn, why is it so complicated? Scripts source equals main.js could be everything the site returns when you load it, because browsers can comprehend even the most broken HTML that can be your entire site. Yeah, which is one of the good. Oh, did I? Shit. Today is Wednesday, right? Did I have my estrogen last night? I think I did. Oh yeah, today's Wednesday. Did I have my Cypro? I think I did. I'm pretty sure I forgot progesterone though. Mood. Let's go. Anyway, the problem with the important in CSS, or the exclamation mark is important, right? It's not. So you can only use it once. Yeah, you're all in the past. I'm in the future. Do not forget the tasties. Yeah, I've got my estrogen, and yes, I did have my estrogen last night, which is good. Just need to make sure that I keep on remembering to have progesterone, because that is also very important. Because without it, I don't function well. But I should probably function well. As long as things go right, then I think I am good to function. Progesterone is cool though. I like progesterone. But like, I want to talk to my doctor about potentially raising progesterone level, not progesterone levels, but raising my progesterone dosage. Because currently I am on 100 milligrams per day. It's one of these squishy pills. And I want to talk about potentially raising it up to 200, just so that I get more benefits from it. And because like I've heard that some people are good with 200, and so it's like, okay, well maybe I could go up to 200 if people are good with it then. And besides, it's the micronized progesterone that I've got, which isn't as bad as like other forms of progesterone. I'd want to be careful if I was on the other types of progesterone, but I'm on micronized. And also sometimes I forget my progesterone, and then it's like I get moody. And I don't like getting moody. Moody is bad. or I just get depressed. And that's not fun either. I remember one time I had a bit of a breakdown, and then it's like, oh, I forgot my progesterone, didn't I? And then I had progesterone, and then my feelings stabilized a lot. So yeah, emotions. Progesterone can have a big impact on emotions, and sometimes I think I've like forgotten it a few times lately and not realized it, and then like, but yeah. Important, basically, forget everything and do this. Yeah, it's been a while since I've used CSS, though technically I did use CSS for the thing that I was showing you earlier. Like, I can, let me try to find the things that I was. This is not the right one. Documents. Actually, do I still have the thing open? I do. I can just wait. No, this doesn't allow. That was a stupid. I pressed F12 and then didn't realize that was like a thing, a feature. Okay, let me go back to YouTube, and that means that every tab I had open is closed. I had a lot of tabs open. Let me go to YouTube Studio and open up the chat. Where is it? Where's my live streaming? Where is my? Where did they put live streaming on this thing? Where is it? Where is it? I'm just gonna go. We'll hit the go live button. Oh, it hit. Okay, there we go. We're back. I can play the piano. I just had a panic attack. Not a panic. Not really, but I was just panicking. Phew. Okay. Okay. We can relax now. I'm good. Whew. Okay. Where was I? I'm not that great at piano. Like, I don't even have it plugged in. Now it is plugged in. Wait, hold on. I don't know. Not that great. I'm not using the thing. And I thought it was. I forget that sometimes when I press buttons, it's not the right thing to press. But anyway, if I go to my documents, and now a folder is created called GE2, and then I go to my project, go to build, and I can open. I can open with Notepad. This is the CSS for like that site that I created. So yeah, took me a bit. I think I actually wrote some of that. Like, I can't remember whether I think some of it was written. No, the JavaScript was written on the before I got COVID, and probably. Yeah, I'm not that great, you know. Like, let's. Actually. 081. Shit. Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh. Yeah, let me do that. Let me reopen that thing. I forgot about that. Let me just open with Notepad again. That's the. I forget that I currently have different things open. Yeah, so this is the CSS. Very simple CSS. Wrote it on the way back. As a trans femme, still not 100% on that label, honestly. Trans people are cool. Yeah, I find that trans people are pretty cool. I am a little bit biased in that because you know, trans people are definitely cool to other trans people. I feel like with trans people I'm definitely safer than with cis people. With cis people there is definitely that there is room for things to go wrong. With a cis person you don't always know if they're going to be cool with you or not. Whereas with a trans person, you know that at the very least they probably won't be transphobic. They might be. There's always that risk, right? They might be transphobic. They might have some internal transphobia. But they're probably not going to be transphobic. And that's one of the things I like about trans people. You know, I have friends that are trans, being trans myself, you know, it's like a lot of my friends are trans, and I generally prefer trans friends, and they're cool. Actually, I have an idea. I don't think I'm going to make a video today because I didn't sleep last night. I was actually playing Minecraft with a trans friend. And ironically, that is what I did, because it's like, oh, I've got to get up at 8 or at 7. I'm just going to play Minecraft and, like, you know. Yeah, like, you know, sometimes trans people can be assholes. Usually it's not a thing where they're trying to be assholes as well. But, like, anyone can be an asshole, you know. It's just a matter of, I think a lot of trans people try to treat other people the way that they would like to be treated, and that is, like, you know, regular people. A lot of people who are against trans people, they have never met a trans person. You know, I have found I don't really see any of the issues that people have with trans people play out in real life. It's something like, you can find anything if you're online enough. Any bad example you want to make of someone, you can find if you're online. I can find, if you want to, like, make all right-wingers seem stupid, you can just grab a clip of Candace Owens. You know, you can grab the Ben Shapiro Aquaman clip. You know, you can grab any clip from Matt Walsh, and that will make those sorts of people look stupid. In real life, they're a lot more reasonable than that, I've found. Sometimes you even agree on stuff. And I find that the internet makes everybody that you don't like look unreasonable. And that's a big takeaway, I think, from a lot of things. Is that anyone you don't like will seem unreasonable. Now, to be fair, there are times when you might encounter people in real life who are exactly like people on the internet. Nazis, TERFs, those kinds of people. Like, I went to this protest. I was in the counter protest and against TERFs. They were protesting drag story time. Well, they weren't all TERFs. One of them was definitely a Nazi. And yeah, they seemed very deranged. And yeah, there was one Nazi dude there. And yeah, he was I worked out where he was going with this, with what he was saying. Pretty quickly, I worked out. Oh, this dude is going to talk about. This dude is already, like, starting to emanate Hitler particles. I wonder if I can get him to, like. I wonder how fast I can get him to that point. But unfortunately, there were other people that were also wanting to, like, get their words in. It's like I know how to control the flow of this conversation to get him to say exactly what he's thinking. But, like, other people were jumping in, being like, "Oh, this, that, and the next thing." It's like this person is not reasonable. Let him say the things that he wants to say. Anyway, that's my experience with transphobes in real life. Obviously, obviously, these are the extreme transphobes. Like, the extreme transphobes are the transphobes that will go to that will protest drag time, story hour. You know, they're extremists. There are regular transphobes that aren't nearly as extreme in their transphobia. They'll just be like, oh, you know, there are transphobes that will be like, I don't mind I don't mind trans people, but they shouldn't be in the wrong spaces, you know? And it's like, they don't think that they have a problem with trans people, but they have a problem with something that would make trans people happier. Or things that would be good for trans people. And it's like, and it's not as extreme as like thinking that it's, you know, some big conspiracy theory to depopulate the earth, which there are transphobes that believe that, and those are the extremists. And I think that when it comes to online, you always see the extremists, and people are easily radicalized online as well, I think. Anyway, that's my little rant. Haven't seen anything new pop up, so I'm also completely unrelated, but I feel like there is an animated character that looks like Planner. Who is that? Who you're gonna have to like introduce me to this character, because I do not know any animated character that looks like me. Because I am... Oh, I could be like... Slightly out of tune. Slightly. Music. Lilith, from Owl House, maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen Owl House. Something like that. But anyway, I'm not leaving a like and subscribe, because that's what you have to do. Because I'm ending the stream here. Because, and I'm not gonna, we're gonna not have ads, right at the end of the stream. Because, you know, I feel like I've talked a lot. You know? Like, I feel like I've talked a lot. And, like, I am starting to get tired. Pretty tired. I can't just use the Biden excuse anymore. that I've watched too much of Joe Biden, and that's wrecking my brain. Because it's like, yeah, I'm just tired at this point. Maybe I was tired earlier as well. You know, that might be what's happened to my mental acuity. But that being said, leave a like and subscribe if you liked this stream. Leave a comment letting me know what you'd like me to do for future streams. I do have a video I do have two big videos that I want to make. There will be a video on FlatZoid. That will be, I'll try to release it on Monday if I possibly can, but hopefully I have to get around to doing that. But then there'll be like a bigger video on Matt Walsh that I've still got to get done. And hopefully I have the mental fortitude to be able to make that long video. But we'll focus on the FlatZoid video for now. That should be a fun video. I am very much going to have fun with FlatZoid. He made the wrong choice to look at the video he did. And he is going to regret it. But anyway, I will see you in the next video or stream. Or both. Between you and me, thank you for watching.